In the next 5 minutes, we'll build one thing end-to-end, a serverless REST API backed by Azure Functions and Azure Cosmos DB. By the end, you'll know the exact resources to provision, how the HTTP trigger wires to Cosmos with bindings, how to design your partition key so reads stay cheap, how to authenticate without secrets using managed identity, and what to check when it's live. No marketing fluff, just the build. Let's lay out the architecture first. Here's the wiring. A client calls an HTTP endpoint exposed by a function app. Each route maps to an HTTP-triggered function. Those functions read and write to a Cosmos DB container using the SQL or Core API. Application Insights captures traces and metrics automatically. For production, you'd front this with Azure API management for throttling and keys, but the core is just functions and Cosmos. Authentication to Cosmos uses a managed identity, so there's no connection string sitting in config. Provision in this order. First, a resource group. Then a Cosmos DB account in serverless capacity mode, which bills per request unit consumed instead of provision throughput, ideal for spiky API traffic. Create a database and a container, and pick the partition key now, because you can't change it later. Next, a storage account, required for the function's runtime. Then the function app itself on the flex consumption plan for fast scale-out and cold start improvements. Bicep or the Azure CLI both work. Check current docs, since plan names and capacity options change. Here's a single endpoint in C# using the isolated worker model. The HTTP trigger defines the route and method. Instead of opening a Cosmos client by hand, you can use the Cosmos input and output bindings. But for control over queries, most teams inject a Cosmos client configured with the account endpoint and a token credential. This is the read path. Parse the ID, run a point read against the container using the partition key, and return the document. A point read is the cheapest possible Cosmos operation, about 1 request unit. This is the decision that makes or breaks Cosmos performance. The partition key determines how data spreads across physical partitions. You want high cardinality and even access, so a value like customer ID or order ID. Using something low cardinality like a status field creates hot partitions and throttling. If most of your reads are by a single key, point reads stay around 1 request unit. If you frequently query across keys, expect cross-partition fan-out queries that cost far more. As a rule of thumb, design the key around your most common read pattern. Don't ship connection strings. Enable a system-assigned managed identity on the function app. Then grant it a Cosmos DB data role using role-based access control. In code, pass a default Azure credential to the Cosmos client and it acquires tokens automatically. For any other secrets, like third-party API keys, store them in Azure Key Vault and reference them from app settings. This keeps your repo and configuration clean and means rotating credentials never touches your deployment. Confirm the role assignment is the Cosmos data plane role, not just the control plane. Deploy with Func Azure Function App Publish or wire a GitHub Actions workflow for continuous deployment. Once live, verify in 4 places. Hit the endpoint with curl and confirm the status codes. Open Application Insights live metrics to see invocations and exceptions. Check the Cosmos metrics blade for request unit consumption per operation. Your point reads should hover near 1 RU. Finally, force a cold start after idle time and measure first request latency on your plan. If request units spike, revisit your queries and partition key before anything else. To recap, resource group, Cosmos in serverless mode, storage, then a function app on flex consumption. HTTP-triggered functions talk to Cosmos through an injected client, authenticated with a managed identity and no secrets. The partition key is your single most important decision, so design it around your dominant read pattern. The one concrete takeaway, Keep your hot path as point reads at roughly 1 request unit, and watch the Cosmos IU metric like a hawk. Because plan names and pricing shift, always confirm against the current Azure docs before you commit a design. If this helped, do me a favor. Hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next video.